Hello, everyone. This is Scott Bissell from the Center for Faculty Excellence, and welcome to today's webinar. This is one of the sessions that we offered at the recent faculty meeting that was held earlier this year, and we wanted to bring this topic to you virtually so that others could learn about this. So today's webinar will be the Baldrige Framework, Benefits and Applications for Faculty and Leaders. And we have two faculty members from the College of Education and Leadership who are here to speak, as well as a guest presenter that we'll introduce shortly from another university who's very familiar with leading this type of methodology and has seen significant results from her university. Before I turn things over to our presenters, I want to just do a quick walkthrough of how to use the GoToWebinar support and features of the classroom. On the screen, you should be seeing the full control panel on the left side that you should be seeing on the right side of your screen. If you're not seeing that and it looks more like what I'm showing now, where it's in collapsed view, all you have to do is just click the arrow button at the top. And when you do that, all of the features will return to you so you can fully participate and ask your questions and participate in polls. If you've not already done so, you may want to just click the audio setup link to make sure your speakers and microphone are working properly with the software. When you're doing your test, we won't be able to hear it in the live classroom, so that will not come through. We have put everyone's microphone on mute who are attending today, just to cut down on any background noise so that we can hear our presenters clearly today. There's a couple ways that you can share your thoughts and ask questions. First way is via text, just in your information, whether it's a question or a thought you want to share here in the bottom part where it says enter a question for staff that I'm showing on the screen, and the question or thought will come to us. There may be times when we're putting links to you or other information, and that will appear in the top part of the questions box right here where I'm pointing. The other way to participate is to raise your hand so that we know to unmute your microphone, and you can share your thoughts that way. So just click the raise hand button, and at the next time we pause for questions or thoughts, we'll go ahead and unmute you so you can share your thoughts. A couple other things to point out to you. If you're having any technical difficulty, here's the technical support phone number you see on the screen, and the GoToWebinar tech support team is standing by and available to assist you. We also do have closed captioning available through the link that's in the questions area. Just click that link and you'll see closed captioning that will be appearing on the screen. At the end of the webinar, we will put an evaluation link in the questions area to get your feedback on today's session, and also for you to identify any other professional development needs you have in your role at the university. So that's just a quick overview of how to use the software. And what I'm going to do now is turn things over first to Dr. Kurt Chalk, who is our first presenter today. So Kurt, I have gone ahead and made you the presenter, and so when you're ready, you can share your screen.
All right. I clicked the button. I assume the screen is being shared. Can you see it?
Yep, we see your slide, Kurt.
All right, great. Thank you. I welcome everybody to this session. I appreciate you all taking time out of your day to be a part of this. Jen Garfield, Julie First-Bovey, and I are pleased to present this material, Scott said, that came originally from the Miami National Faculty Meeting back in January. And I'll let Jan and Julie introduce themselves when it comes to their part of the presentation. As Scott said, this is a session on the Baldrige Framework, Benefits for You in Walden. Here are the list of the presenters, and again, I'll let them introduce themselves. I am a faculty member and a coordinator in the Richard W. Riley College of Education and Leadership, and I spent several years involved with the Baldrige Performance Excellence Program at several levels. And so I'm happy to try to share more about that Performance Excellence Program and what it might do in and for Walden with you today and over the course of the past several months, actually. Key things we want to communicate to you today and have you walk away with is simply an improvement in your personal understanding and knowledge of the Baldrige education criteria for performance excellence and what that business model is all about. We know that there are some things happening in Walden related to Baldrige, and we'll share some of those. And we know there are some things you can do in your own individual department, work area, both inside and outside of Walden, to help you understand the criteria better, the framework better. So we hope that what we do today will help improve your ability to help Walden use the criteria, again, in your own work areas as well. So we have some poll questions for you interspersed throughout this presentation, and just a couple really quick to start with to get a sense of your background, understanding, and knowledge, and so on. So Scott puts the poll questions up. The first one we'd like to ask you, just to get, again, a sense of your understanding. How many of you now work for or have worked for an organization that submitted a state or national Baldrige application? And the options there are either yes or no. You either have now or have in the past or not. The second poll question is for you to rank your level of Baldrige knowledge. One being the least. Geez, what is this again? Never heard of it. And 10, you know it so well you could teach a seminar on it. So that's the second poll question, just to get a ranking of your knowledge level. And the third poll question is a little bit humorous and just to add some.
Hey Kurt, we can only we have to do one poll question at a time. So maybe why don't we pause for results for this, the one we have up now with the rank your level of Baldrige knowledge, and then go to the next one.
Great, thank you. Sorry, I'm ahead of myself.
Okay. And everyone's voted, and I'm sharing the results. You should see them on your right side, Kurt, on your control panel. Okay, it looks like about a third don't have rated none for their level of knowledge. Another third chose 3, and then we didn't have anyone who selected 5.
Okay, and I'm not seeing that, Scott, so I have to look for where that is, I guess.
Okay.
Let me see that. Okay. All right, so it sounds like we have some level of understanding and knowledge in terms of that. So now, move to the third question. The third question is just a little bit of human interest. We just say, how many times does the letter B appear in the word Baldrige? 1, 2, or 3? And we sort of give the answer away by putting the word Baldrige on the screen. But we put that up there because a lot of times people put a second D right before the G in Baldrige, and for those of us who are very dedicated to this, we're very clear that there's one D in Baldrige, and it's kind of a sign unto us when people put that second D that maybe they need a little more education. So from here on out, if you learn nothing more, at least you'll learn that there is only one D in the word or name Baldrige. All right, I'm ready to move on to the next slide. Here we go. Briefly, what is a Baldrige Performance Excellence Program? It is in two different things, an awareness and an educational program that on the national level tries to promote performance excellence and sustainability within organizations. It's values-based, and we'll show you a list of those values soon. It operates out of what we call a systems framework, meaning that everything is linked, everything works together within this assessment of performance excellence model. There are 7 categories within this framework, and originally Baldrige, and still is, an award program that contains 6 process categories and 1 results category. But the systems framework concept here is that all 6 of those process categories and that results category work together to create a very systematic approach to performance excellence. We'll give you some more details on that in just a bit. Again, originally the Baldrige Performance Excellence Program began as a kind of a manufacturing and a quality emphasis in the late 80s. It has since evolved to encompass all industries and all sectors across the United States, and has evolved from a focus on quality to more of a focus on performance excellence. So there are many nonprofit, healthcare, small business, and education organizations very much involved. And the list you see on the screen are 3 of the higher education Baldrige Award recipients from the last several years. In essence, then, why Baldrige? It is a systematic approach to assessment and improvement within an organization that's been used by many thousands of organizations. and it's affordable and effective because can be a very simple, straightforward process for an organization to do an internal assessment and then set to work on continuous improvement activities as they learn from those assessment processes. So we're going to share a little bit more with you now about how that works and how it was applied in one specific organization. Dan?
Just making sure I'm no longer on mute. There we go. At Walden University, we're very familiar with using theoretical and conceptual frameworks. Considering that improving Walden University is the ultimate case study, here it is. Here's the Baldrige conceptual framework, famously known as the Baldrige burger. Let's start out by looking at the top and the bottom bun. The top of the Baldrige model is the organizational profile. Developing an organizational profile allows an organization to set the context for the way the organization operates. It's the overarching guide, it's the playbook, if you will, for the organization's performance management system. Now if you'll go to the bottom and look at category 4, which is measurement, analysis, and knowledge management, that's the bottom bun. It's the system foundation, and it's critical to the effective management and to any fact-based, knowledge-driven system for improving performance and competitiveness. Now let's go inside. If you look to the left, you'll see the 3 categories that are known as the leadership triad: leadership, strategic planning, and customer focus. The leadership triad of key work processes and key work systems drives the results triad on the right-hand side that involves the categories of workforce focus, operations focus, and ultimately the results or the outcomes. So as we move forward in this webinar, keep this model in mind because we'll be speaking about each one of these categories 1 through 6 as the process categories, all leading to category 7, the results. Let's go on to that next slide. Just as Walden University has core values of quality, integrity, and student-centeredness, Baldrige also has core values, and you see them here. Over the years, although the criteria are continuously improved and updated, these core values have remained pretty much the same. If you compare these core values in the next slide, there we go. These core values to the criteria, on the left-hand side you see each of those Baldrige criteria categories that we were just looking at in the model, lined up against the Higher Learning Commission's new criteria for accreditation. As the result of our October site visit and the feedback report that we received, we understand that we will be participating in the standard pathway for reaffirmation of accreditation moving forward. And these are the Higher Learning Commission's criteria categories. So when you consider that at Walden University what we do will be guided by our core values and by the Higher Learning Commission's criteria, you can see just by looking how well the Baldrige criteria categories and the Higher Learning Commission's values and categories are aligned and mesh. So the point that we'll be making repeatedly in talking about implementing Baldrige at Walden is that very much applying the Baldrige criteria is a way of more efficiently and effectively doing what we're already doing. Now what I would like to do is introduce our guest speaker, Julie First-Bovee. Julie was a senior leader at the University of Wisconsin Stout when that organization won the Baldrige Award. And she has since and recently become Chancellor of Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville. So Julie, we'll turn this over to you.
Well, thank you, Jan. I think we can move on to the first slide. As Jan said, that the Baldrige appears to be a good fit for Walden, I think it is a very good fit for, frankly, any post-secondary education institution. If you think of all the issues that all of us are facing, frankly, whether we're in the 2-year sector, 4-year sector, public or private, we hear lots and lots of discussion today about access to post-secondary education, affordability. We see lots and lots of competition between public, private, profit and nonprofit sectors. A lot of debate about the quality of instruction. Certainly a lot of debate about student learning and performance. Can we actually demonstrate that students have mastered the learning outcomes and they're prepared to enter a professional field? We know we have issues related to diversity and achievement gaps. Focus on race and ethnicity. Also achievement gaps between men and women when it comes to some of the STEM areas. Completion rates are certainly a national agenda and becoming an issue in every state. Technological advances as well. It is interesting, we've given this seminar in a face-to-face format in Florida a few months ago, and now we can bring it to you virtually through technology. And certainly I think funding is an issue no matter what type of environment that you're in. Next slide. As Jan mentioned, I had actually spent 22 years of my career at the University of Wisconsin-Stout, starting there as a faculty member, moving into department chair, director of the graduate school, assessment coordinator for the entire campus before moving into the provost office and then actually becoming the provost and vice chancellor for academic and student affairs about the time we were very engaged in the Baldrige process and received the Baldrige Award. UW-Stout is, I think, a rather unique institution. There's really no attempt to be all things to all people. It's very career-focused, about 9,500 students. UW-Stout was one of the first campuses in the country to become a digital laptop campus in the late 1990s. All of the students engage in experiential learning, meaning they do a co-op, an internship, or student teaching prior to graduation. We're the only full university to have received the Baldrige Award, and we've been in the Academic Quality Improvement Program for more than 10 years, as has my current institution in Illinois. Jan had mentioned there were 7 Baldrige categories. I'll just briefly walk you through each one. This is probably enough material for a 2- or 3-day seminar, but the first category is leadership. And by leadership, we do mean senior leaders who establish and clearly communicate the mission, vision, values, directions, and goals to all of the faculty, staff, students, and external stakeholders. I think we've certainly learned from UW-Stout's experience, from other Baldrige recipients, that senior leaders must be behind any type of quality improvement initiative. It's next to impossible to do this work from the bottom up or from the middle out. At UW-Stout, we really formed, I think, a rather unique leadership team, which is depicted on the next slide. Shared leadership, as you can see, a very student-centered leadership model where we had a Chancellor's Advisory Council, and that was a big group. It definitely included the Chancellor, key administrators from both the academic and administrative areas and from student life. But it also included representatives from our internal governance groups, a faculty senate group, a staff senate group, a student senate group, as well as representatives from our alumni and foundation services. This group basically met every 2 weeks, in fact it still does meet every 2 weeks, to basically talk about issues on campus, make decisions. In essence, this group really serves as a strategic planning group for the campus, the group that works with the campus to establish priorities, and then communicates priorities both to internal and external stakeholders. Next slide. I think things to think about. Obviously, every university or college is organized a bit differently. Some of them have a lot of systems and structures in place. Others have less formal university systems. For Baldrige, again, Baldrige is not prescriptive, which is, I think, one of its strengths, to be quite honest. Baldrige doesn't dictate that you have to have a certain type of organizational chart or you have to have any certain type of leadership system. What they do ask is that, frankly, all of the employees and students, faculty, staff, and students know and understand the mission of the institution. They know and understand the vision of the institution, and they find that leaders openly share information about the organization. So at this point, we would like you to sort of think about your experience at Walden and how would you rate these leadership questions? Would you strongly agree that there's good, solid communication on vision, mission, values, directions, or would you disagree and say that that information is less hard to come by? Next slide.
Scott, I want to do the actual poll. Can you do that?
Yeah, next slide should be the poll, I think.
Well, we'll move on to the
There we go. There it is. If we could ask everyone to complete the first poll question. Basically, you know the mission of Walden University. What does it stand for? What is it trying to accomplish? If you could select one. Okay. And could we see the results of the poll?
Sure. Go ahead and put those up. And Kurt, you should see these on the right where it says attendee view. Okay. And close. There. There we go.
Oh, and you can see, it looks to me like this is a good response to this one with basically 100% of the people saying what the mission of Walden is. I don't know if I would get that unanimous of response at my current institution, probably because we are, frankly, doing a revision or an update of our mission statement at this time. Could we move on to the next poll question? And this is related to the vision. So again, the mission, who the institution is currently serving, and the vision. Where is the institution trying to go in the future? If you could, again, rate that one on whether you agree or disagree with that statement. Okay, are we ready to show the results of that poll? Okay. And again, we've got a little more disparity in the responses here. Frankly, a rather even distribution among those that agree, disagree, or neither agree or disagree. And that, that's probably not at all surprising. I think if you were at my UW Stouter at my current institution and you tried to pin people down, what is the vision, there would be certainly less consensus on that item. Could we move on? And the last poll question is that leaders share information about the organization. So we'll ask everyone to select whether they agree or disagree with that statement. Okay, can we share the results of that poll? And again, we see a more of a spread in the responses. We do have more than 50%, 57% of the people agreeing or strongly agreeing with that statement, 14% in the neutral category, and about 28% saying they disagree or strongly disagree. I think communication is a challenge in any higher learning organization, but I would see that would be a particular challenge at Walden just because of the online nature. The way we're communicating today, you don't have everyone, like on my campus, everyone comes to campus every day. You don't have that type of a setting here. People are dispersed geographically. It really takes, I think, a lot of effort to communicate, even on a traditional campus. We find ourselves communicating with face-to-face, print, electronic, basically trying to get the message out in as many ways as we can. And we know there are still people that don't feel that we are doing a good enough job of communicating about issues on campus. Could we move on? Strategic planning is the second category. As I think I alluded to, we are going through that process now at my current campus. Again, starting right from the start with a look and a revisiting of our mission, vision, and value statements. That needs to be the basis of any strategic planning, involving key internal and external stakeholder groups. UW Stout, we involve many, many people in the strategic planning process: faculty, staff, students, alumni, employers, community leaders, our K-12 partners, area legislators. Basically about 70 people were involved in providing input to the process every year. It's important to get as much input as you can, but in the end, you have to have a number of priorities that you can actually be able to articulate and implement. Generally at UW Stout, we had about 4 to 6 priorities each year. Priorities need to be aligned with resources. Obviously, we don't declare that something is going to be a priority and then say, well, we really don't have the money to pay for it. The desired outcome should be clearly defined. If we say that international education is going to be a university priority, what does that mean? Do we want more students to study abroad? Do we want more international students coming to campus? Do we want our curriculum to reflect more international content? It's important that progress is monitored and reported on a regular basis. We've all seen grand plans that just sit on shelves. At UW Stout, we monitored progress every 6 months, and people were accountable for doing the work that had been assigned to them in the plan. Next slide. And this is basically, it's a very simplified version of the strategic planning process at Stout, or frankly, for most institutions. Again, we have the mission, vision, and goals. Then it comes down to what are the actual strategic priorities, strategies, priorities, strategic objectives, whatever terms you want to use. Then again, what are those high-level tactics that are going to help you accomplish those strategies? Finally, what are the action steps that are going to need to be taken? And at UW Stout, we actually broke it down to action steps. So anyone looking at one of our strategic priorities would be able to say, okay, here's the priority, here are the action steps that are necessary to accomplish this priority, here's the timeline, here are the expected results, and here are the person or persons who are going to be accountable for seeing that we achieve those results. Next slide. And again, just a short poll along this topic. And the first question is it plans for the future? Walden asked for my ideas. So we're basically looking at, does the institution involve you in the strategic planning process? Let's go ahead and vote on this one. Got a lot of categories to get through. Okay. Do we have the results? Okay, and here we've got a pretty good split, a third, a third, a third, with a third of you saying, yes, I am involved in strategic planning, or at least I've provided input into the process, a third neutral, and a third saying, no, they haven't been involved. Okay, next question. The next one is that Walden encourages totally new ideas. Again, I'll have you vote whether you agree or disagree. Share the results. And here we see, I think, a good consensus on this one of 75% saying yes, new ideas are encouraged. And I believe that, knowing as much as I know about your institution, you are quite innovative and actually known as a very innovative institution. The third poll question dealing with strategic planning is actually dealing with implementation. I know the parts of the organization's plans that affect me and my work. Okay, can we see the results of that one? And again, it's sort of a split here. Actually, we've got people in just about every category. Fairly high level of neutrality and a rather high level of disagreement. And I think this is difficult, again, in any large institution. We've got, at UW-Stout, we had a focus on student retention. We have a focus on student retention here. We probably have a focus on student retention at Walden as well. Again, what is the faculty's role in that plan? How does it affect the faculty in the classroom? Difficult to get that message across. Not even clear that all faculty will even agree that they should have a strong role in retention work. Can we move on? And then the last question in strategic planning is, I know how to tell if we're making progress on my work groups part of the plan. We'll have you vote on that one. And can we see the results? And again, a number of people here saying, no, I really can't tell whether I know if I'm making progress in my work groups part of the plan. Again, in a large institution, this is very difficult. As chancellor, or certainly when I was provost at South, the same thing, that I would try to go out and communicate as often as possible on, okay, here's our goals and priorities, here's the progress we've made this year. In fact, I'm doing a presentation like that Thursday. But it's hard to reach everyone, and it's hard to provide a lot of detail when you're really literally addressing thousands of employees. Can we move on? The third category is all about customer, stakeholder, and market focus. It's very important that Walden as an institution identify those key stakeholder groups. Obviously, your students and your employees are key stakeholder groups. How important are alumni and employers? Parents. Parents are a very key stakeholder group. To me, as a chancellor of a very traditional institution where most of the students are 18 years old, probably less important of a constituency at Walden. Once you've identified who those key stakeholders are, it's very important to identify their needs and expectations. And we know that needs and expectations of students, of employees, and certainly even of parents have escalated in recent years. What are the key points, or who are the key points of contact for each group? Do we know if alumni has a question, has a suggestion? Who does he or she go to? Do we have methods for developing systematic relationships with each group? Do we offer programs and services to meet the needs of each group? And then finally, how do we measure satisfaction surveys? At a lot of institutions, they'll claim, oh yes, our employees are extremely satisfied, or our alumni are extremely satisfied, but they really only have anecdotal evidence or examples to back up those claims. It's very important that you use actual instruments to measure student and stakeholder satisfaction. We can go on. What are some success measures? Obviously with students, it's a key. Do you retain students? Do you graduate them? How satisfied are they? Graduate job placement rates were important at UW-Stout. They're important at this institution, and they're important at Walden. Alumni and friends. We look at how many alumni participate in activities. Are they satisfied? Are they contributing to our university? Employers, business, and industry. Again, are they hiring our students? Are they satisfied with the services that we provide? And are we continually offering new programs and services to meet the needs of external stakeholders? We can go on. Again, 3 quick poll questions for all of you today relative to student and stakeholder focus. The first one is, do you know who the most important customers are at Walden University? The second one, I regularly ask students what they need and want. And third, I regularly ask if customers are satisfied or dissatisfied with my work. And we'll go to the poll.
Okay, and I apologize. It looks like we're having a glitch in our poll software. Give me one moment, see if I can resolve it. All right, let's choose another way we can do this. For the first one, I know who my most important customers are. Let's use the raise hand button for each one. So for those of you who would say for the first question, I know who my most important customers are, how many would say strongly disagree? And if one of our presenters can keep track of how many, I'll let you know how many come in. Okay, looks like for strongly disagree we have 2. Okay, I'm going to lower hands. For disagree, the second option, click your raise hand button now for that one. Okay, looks like no one for that one. For neither disagree or agree, click the raise hand button. Okay, looks like we have 1 for that one. And for agree, go ahead and click the raise hand button. Okay, looks like we have 1, 2 for that one. And then last option for strongly agree, go ahead and click the raise hand button. Okay, and I'm hoping someone jotted those down. You know the distribution?
Yeah, I think the distribution indicates that there is a very good understanding of who the most important customers are at Walden University. Could we move on to I regularly ask customers what they need and want?
Okay, let's go ahead and do the same thing we did before. So for the question Julie just read off, regularly ask my customers for what they need and want. Go ahead and click the raise hand button now for strongly disagree. Okay, doesn't look like we have any for that. For disagree, go ahead and click the raise hand button now. Okay, looks like we have 1 for that. For neither disagree or agree, go ahead and click the raise hand button now. Okay, looks like we have 1 for that one. For agree, go ahead and click the raise hand button now. And we have 1, 2, we have 4 for that. And for the last option, strongly agree, go ahead and click the raise hand button for that one. And looks like we have 1 for that one.
So it sounds like for the most part, the participants feel that they, do have the opportunity to ask customers what they need and want. And the next one is just a related one. In fact, maybe for the sake of time, we should just move on. I'm a little concerned we won't get through all the categories.
Okay.
And the fourth category is, as Jan said, kind of the bun of that hamburger. Really all of the Baldrige work sort of rests on this foundation of measurement, analysis, and knowledge management. Again, it looks at how well as an institution, how well do you select, collect, share, and utilize data? Have you identified what are your key performance indicators? Have you set targets in each of those areas? So if you have performance indicators related to enrollment or retention or graduation rates, what is your target for those areas? How well do you use comparative data? You look at schools that are like Walden. Who are your comparative schools, competitive schools? Who are the best schools? So how well do you identify and utilize benchmark data? So you can compare yourself to your current peers as well as perhaps some inspirational peers. How well is data used for decision making and continuous improvement throughout the organization? And this refers to basically using data for decision making both in and out of the classroom. Do you have systems for managing data and information? And I guess I would have to assume you do, given that you rely so much on technology to deliver your courses and programs. UW Stout does a phenomenal job with all of this. If anyone wants to take a look at all this, it's laid out at the website below. You can basically see every survey. You can see all of the performance indicators. You can see all the performance targets, the comparative data, the benchmark data. This is something that we're at the very early stages of putting together at my current institution. Next. You can display this type of information in many different ways. Most institutions now have went to some type of a balanced scorecard. The format you see, again, it should be something that faculty, staff, alumni, community members, board members can take a look at and see, oh, okay, here's their strategy, here's how well they're doing relative to their financial targets, relative to their learning and growth targets, relative to their customer focus targets and relative to their business processes. So again, you see this laid out in different ways, but just sort of a nice tool to easily communicate what are those key strategic objectives and how are you doing relative to results in those areas. Okay. Again, just for the sake of time, I think we can answer only, we'll just do one of the poll questions, and we'll just do the first one. I know how to measure the quality of my work.
Okay, let's go ahead and do the raise hand option again. Poll functionality is still not working. So for strongly disagree, go ahead and click the raise hand button now. Okay, zero for that. Go ahead, click the raise hand button for disagree. Again, this is how to measure quality of my work. Okay, neither disagree or agree. Okay, looks like we have one for that. For agree, go ahead and click the raise hand button for that one. We have 1, 2 for that one. And for strongly agree, go ahead and click the raise hand button for that one. And we have 1, 2, 3 for that one.
And again, I think that's a good outcome on that poll question, showing that, again, most of the participants do receive feedback on the work that they're doing in and out of the classroom. The fifth category deals with faculty and staff. It's entitled Workforce Focus. And again, just sort of a broad brush on how you recruit, select, and hire new faculty and staff. What does the diversity of your workforce look like? Do you have clearly defined roles and responsibilities? Does the institution provide comprehensive learning and development programs for employees? Are employees engaged? Is there a high tolerance for change management? Are faculty and staff compensated and rewarded, again, for efforts both in and out of the classroom? And then finally, have you built that high-performance culture focused on continuous improvement? As someone who's been doing this type of work for a long time, I will say it takes several years to build the culture of continuous improvement. It's not something that happens overnight. It's certainly not something that happens by completing a few surveys. It's just a lot of hard work, and it does happen over time. UW Stout, again, more than a decade of working on these various areas, refining these various areas, finding more ways, frankly, each year to engage employees in continuous improvement. And next slide. Again, this is a Wordle. This is something that we're using quite a bit at Stout, often to capture feedback that we got from employees. Every year there was a process where we engaged employees, and this sounds very redundant, employee engagement sessions. And it was something where we had the 70 external stakeholders provide us with lots of feedback and great ideas for priorities for the upcoming year. And then as soon as the fall semester started, we would kick off the fall semester by breaking all of the employees and even some student workers as well, faculty, staff, and students, into groups, holding these groups all over campus, and then having the campus discuss the priorities that were suggested by the external stakeholders. After that, we generally conclude with some type of a barbecue or employee picnic, but it was a great way to get employee input on the strategic plan and the annual priorities. And then generally we recorded everything that was said and then made some type of a diagram, in fact, like the one you see in front of you, and the Wordle charts, and then they were hung around campus to remind people of what had been discussed and agreed upon. Next slide. Okay, workforce focus questions. These I am curious just because of the virtual nature of your campus. So we'll go ahead and do the first one. Again, just because the polling doesn't seem to be doing well, we'll probably have to do it with the help of our facilitator. So the first workforce focus question is, the people I work with cooperate and work as a team.
Okay, so let's go ahead for those that strongly disagree. Go ahead and click the raise hand button now. All right, we have one for that one. For disagree, go ahead and click the raise hand button. For neither disagree, and we had 0 for that one. For neither disagree or agree, click the raise hand button for that one. Okay, we have 1 for that one. For agree, go ahead and click the raise hand button for that one. Okay, and one for that one. And for strongly agree, click the raise hand button for that one. Two for that one.
Again, encouraging results given the fact that I think it's difficult enough often to work as a team when you are in offices next to the people that you work with, but given the virtual nature of the campus, I think teamwork becomes much more challenging. Category 6 certainly moves into operations focus. It's all about process management, which is sort of the heart of continuous quality improvement. So the Baldrige criteria in this category is going to look at how well you design your work systems, how well you design and manage your work processes. And again, it's campus-wide, so it's going to be looking at those instructional or teaching and learning processes, student and employee support processes, business and administrative processes, and also, are you ready for any type of emergency? And again, a virtual campus is probably would have a little bit different type of emergencies that I might experience on a traditional campus. You have a system in place for process improvement. When you know it's time to review a process, when you know it's time to improve a process. Which leads us into, this is actually a diagram from Michigan. But again, very common. If anyone is familiar with sort of the plan, do, check, act, or plan, do, study, act cycle, same type of thing. You again identify the process, and again, when we really became very sophisticated about using Baldrige at UW-Stout, we had the processes all put on a cycle. So we had the process for improving processes, and all of the major processes were in a cycle to be improved. So again, you identify the processes, or it could be just because they're on that cycle, document and analyze, are they working, how many steps does it take to get this course designed, or to get the student their financial aid package, or to get someone registered for a course. We might find, wow, there are an awful lot of steps that we can do this, faster, better, cheaper. Going through then, redesigning it, testing it back out, rolling out the new process, evaluating, and the cycle starts over again. We've got, again, operation-focused questions, dealing with processes. Sometimes it's hard if you're an individual faculty or staff member to see how you fit into the bigger scheme of things. I think we'll go ahead and just do one of the poll questions. Let's do the second one. We have good processes for doing our work.
Okay, let's go ahead and use the raise hand buttons again. Give me 1 sec just to get that set up. Actually, miracle of miracles, we have our polling back up. So we'll go ahead and do the second one.
That's great, Scott.
Okay, so everyone go ahead and you can use the polling feature on the screen and we'll see your results. Okay.
And you can see in this one, for the most part, people are agreeing with about 57% saying they agree or strongly agree. We've got good processes for doing our work, with, again, several low in the neutral category. I think this is important no matter what type of institution you work in. To me, it does seem particularly important in larger institutions, and again, institutions which are decentralized, virtual institutions such as Walden. Very important for people to know the core processes, understand them, and use them to get their work done. Finally, performance results are the 7th Baldrige category. The Baldrige application actually consists of 6 pages of what are primarily narrative, diagrams, descriptions of all of your approaches, how you implement them, how you evaluate and improve them, in each of those first 6 categories we just went through. The 7th one is actually kind of where the rubber meets the road. What do the numbers look like? Do you have performance results in each of these categories? Are they getting better over time? Do they hold up when compared to peer institutions? So really looking at the levels of performance, the trend line, and then the comparative data as well. You really need to have excellent performance results to receive the Baldrige Award. Your application is scored on a 1,000-point basis, and nearly half of the points come from the results. So you can't have someone that just does a very good job of writing up your descriptions of all of your processes. You indeed have to show they lead to solid outcomes. Solid outcomes in the areas of student learning and performance. So how well are your students doing when it comes to certification tests? How well are they doing when it comes to actually, being retained, graduating, getting employed in their field of choice? Stakeholder results, certainly. Can you show that alumni are satisfied? Can you show that employers are satisfied? Accreditors are satisfied, all of those various external stakeholders. Workforce focus results, again, what does the performance look like of your faculty and staff? Are they satisfied? How many of them are engaged in your learning and development programs? What is your turnover rate? How many complaints do you receive? All of those types of things. Results relative to leadership and shared governance could be anything, frankly, from how well you are actually accomplishing the items listed in your strategic plan, any type of governance surveys you might have, audit findings, all of those things might fit in that leadership and shared governance section, as well as how well your leadership responds to community needs. Financial outcomes, I think, would be fairly evident. Again, are you getting a good return on your investment? Generally speaking, certainly not all educational institutions, in fact, most of them are not considered for-profit institutions. So it's really more about how well you manage resources. And in fact, at UW-Stout, we were looking at things like how we were able to maximize tuition revenue, how we were able to grow our endowment, and again, how the funding was then used to further the goals of the institution. And again, needless to say, you don't just want random performance results. They all need to be tied to your mission and your goals. Next slide. Just a quick summary. I know we went through a lot of information today very rapidly. Again, as someone who's been doing this type of work now for about 15 years, what are the benefits? What I've described to you probably sounds like a lot of work, either for you as an individual faculty or staff member or for your institution. Well, I can certainly say that it's well worth the efforts that are put into it. Helps the organization focus on the big picture and the key challenges. Helps the organization to develop a systems perspective, and that's, again, it's a value of Baldrige, and it really helps, I think, for faculty, staff, and students to see how all of the parts relate. One thing we did very early on in this process is map how all of our systems relate to each other, from the time a student even expresses any interest in the institution, from when they actually enroll, go through the educational program, graduate, and become alumni. Then the cycle begins again. It really helps to keep everyone focused on the institution's goals and strategic priorities. I think prior to Baldrige, UW-Stout was an institution where people really worked off their own individual agendas. And there wasn't, I think, a common sharing of these are the important goals for us as a university. Definitely facilitates database decision making. Prior to Baldrige, we had many work groups, task forces, and committees that, again, worked in isolation, shared ideas, but rarely shared numbers, facts, or figures, and came up with recommendations that often weren't funded because they were not necessarily grounded in the data, and there frankly weren't resources to implement their ideas anyway. So again, the importance of funding priorities and providing people with the data needed to make decisions. Baldrige definitely helped UW-Stout increase the level of teamwork and working across departments and units. Definitely increased our student and stakeholder satisfaction levels. Increased the rate of change. I know certainly in traditional campuses the rate of change can be very slow. what we saw as an ability to actually get things done because we had developed a system in which things got done. A lot of emphasis on results, improvement of results, people taking a lot of pride in the fact that they had improved the results. And really, as a whole, it really stimulated, I think, the personal and the organizational learning for all of our faculty, staff, and students. And now I will turn it back over to Kurt and Jan.
Well, thank you very much, Julie, for that. A lot of information, but I appreciate your insights and the examples, certainly. What you see on the screen right now is a list of some of the initiatives that are underway within Walden to promote and learn more about and actually utilize the Baldrige Performance Excellence Program, the framework, the criteria, the concepts. Some of you may be familiar with the co-curricular review process that is underway, sponsored by the Office of Institutional Review and Assessment. Several departments are undergoing that. There are courses that have been offered that use the concepts and the framework of the Baldrige criteria. I think Jan alluded to accreditation values that are shared, and certainly within HLC management and nursing accreditation standards, you'll see the Baldrige concept very evident in those approaches. There is a community of scholarship and practice for Baldrige. This seminar, of course, came from the January National Faculty Meeting in Miami, and the picture on the screen is a picture of the booth that we had there to promote the Performance Excellence Framework. And there's a WITS presentation that tries to bring together many of the Baldrige concepts. Jan, are there other things that you would share about current initiatives?
I wanted to give more of a commercial announcement about that Woods presentation. I'm currently developing that presentation to align individual performance evaluations with the Baldrige framework, and looking forward to presenting that soon.
Appreciate that. And again, we have, I think, just a few minutes. We would entertain some additional conversation, additional questions that you might all have. Maybe focused around the questions on the screen, where you've seen Baldrige at work in your area, any personal or professional awareness, thoughts about how these concepts could be applied in your area, in addition to where we kind of might have highlighted some areas through the poll questions or through Julie's presentation. And certainly want to encourage you all to become involved at either your state level or the national level as a Baldrige examiner. And any one of the three of us would be glad to talk to you more about how that happens. But just about every state in the United States now has an internal Baldrige-based award program or is connected to one on a regional level. So we would encourage you to become involved in that at that level if you can and have interest, and we'd be happy to share some of that because we've all been involved at those levels as well. Are there additional conversation, questions, comments that you all would have in the few minutes that we have left?
And feel free to click the raise hand button if you want us to open your microphone, if you want to share that way, or type in your responses if you don't have access to your microphone right now in the questions area, and I can relate them back to our presenters. We do have a comment. Robert writes in that Rocky Mountain Performance Excellence is looking for examiners.
Thank you. That's a common need across all these state programs, certainly qualified examiners.
This is Jan. I might also mention that the Higher Learning Commission is in great need of peer reviewers. And because the Commission's criteria are Baldrige-based, another way you could get involved with the Baldrige criteria is becoming a peer reviewer for the Higher Learning Commission.
Okay, looks like we're all caught up on questions. For those of you who might be typing in any additional thoughts, I also want to direct you over to the questions area. We do have the feedback survey available there, and I'll turn it back over to you, Kurt.
Well, again, I think we had, again, slotted an hour for this, and we are right at that hour. We just want to, again, thank you all for your involvement, your presence, and listening to the words that Julie shared and the poll questions. On the screen is our names and email addresses, so please feel free to contact any of us with any further questions or a follow-up conversation about this topic. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much to our presenters today for sharing their experiences and information about this model. Also want to thank our attendees for participating today and apologize for our issues with the polling software. Looks like we do have one hand raised. Donald, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you if you'd like to share your thoughts. Okay, having difficulty unmuting you, Donald, if you want to send your thoughts in. Looks like we are via text. Okay, we'll give Donald just a moment. But while we're concluding, we will send a follow-up email with the PowerPoint presentation and the recording link in case you missed anything or want to share this with your colleagues across the university. That email will be coming out tomorrow morning once the recording is available. And giving Donald just another moment if you want to. Okay, Donald, I've gone ahead and unmuted you. You want to try again now to ask your question?
Oh, I was just curious how to become involved in a higher education examiner that was mentioned earlier.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
And greetings, I was an SIU, Illinois University, Carbondale graduate from Islamabad. So.
Oh, it's good to know. Yeah, thanks for saying that.
All right.
But yeah, just about the higher ed examiner, how to get more information about that, or you can send an email. That'd be great.
Jan, is that something you've been talking about?
Yes, Donald, I'm just getting your name down so that I can send you that information, and I'll send you an email with some links to some ways you can apply.
Well, that would be super. Thank you so very much.
Sure. Thank you.
All righty.
Looks like we are all set in on questions, so this will go ahead and conclude our webinar. Thanks, everyone. Goodbye for now.